Creepers left to rise, buzz like crazy. Everybody's trying to stimulate it. Spiders in the mirror and things can't be right. Back to the scene of a Friday night, to a blessed collision still frozen tight. Spear drinkers, Cupid and the sound of earthless chime. And why did you argue? We're dreaming of those eyes, the best part of my life. And when we make love, babe, don't make a sound, the clock won't turn around. Ooh, you turn around.
Hello my friends, hello. Welcome back to another reading vlog. It is Monday. I just felt like vlogging, so here we are. Hi, hello. Most of the time in the past, historically, not always, because I have so many vlogs, like so many, but ideally I like to vlog if I have like a specific book that I'm talking about, like specifically books that I think you want to hear about, or books that I think I might have something to say about, you know. But as I am just trying to like stop being kind of a slave to like social media in that way, and tailor my reading to what I think people want to see. Like, I don't want to do that anymore, even if that means that like my views go down, my followers go down. Like, I don't even care about that anymore. I just want to read what I want to read, and I want to talk about it. Like, that seems like that's the heart of why I started a booktube channel. And somewhere along the way, when you start getting, you know, maybe you get a lot more views, you get a lot more followers, you get a little bit of popularity, it sort of feels like, for me anyway, I sort of felt like I was doing things that I thought people wanted to see. And I know I've talked about this before, but I don't know why I need to do a 2-minute preface into this vlog about why I want to vlog. I just want to vlog. So these books are books that I don't anticipate a lot of people really are interested in, but I'm interested in them, and so I'm reading them. So today I started my audio book, which is Inheritance by Christopher Paolini. I first read the Aragon series like years ago when they first came out. My husband and I read them out loud to each other, and it was just so fun. This book, however, I read part of when it came out, and then I never finished it, and I'm not sure why. It could have just been the time of life that I was in. Like, when these books first came out, I was a very young mother. I had little tiny kids, and they were napping, and I had more time to read. If you're a young mother of little kids right now, you're maybe like, that's not my life. But like, I felt like I had so much more time when they were tiny, and now that they're big and grown and I have a lot of other things, I feel like my time is much more limited, mostly because of work. But so this is basically just a young adult fantasy series. It's one that is near and dear to my heart. Like, I love this series so much, and I'm nervous to see how this book ends. I am kind of buddy reading this with Jen from the Book Refuge. We reread the first 3 and buddy read those, but this is one that we're kind of reading it at the same time, but kind of not. And because I don't know what happens in this book, I'm kind of like not talking about it a lot because I don't want to get spoiled. You know, I don't want to inadvertently get spoiled. If I've avoided spoilers for this many years, you know, why not now? So that's what I'm reading. And then I just picked up one of my arcs that I have. I think this one comes out October 10th. And this is also a YA fantasy. This is a YA fantasy romance, and the premise of this is amazing, and I'm about 10% into it. I'm very engaged, really loving the story, really loving the plot, and I'm hopeful this is going to be great. I have read, the book I'm reading is The Night Hunt by Alexandra Christo, I believe, and I have read her To Kill a Kingdom book. That was like a Little Mermaid retelling, which I liked. I thought that was fun. I really enjoyed that. I read that when it came out, and then I haven't read anything of hers since then. So I just, you know, I was browsing NetGalley and I was looking for fantasy books, and I saw this one and I was like, oh, that sounds amazing. So it's basically monster girl. Our heroine is like a monster, and she feeds off of the fear of humans, and she's under a lot of like constraints. Like she can't kill humans, or else, you know, she gets a curse put on her. And then we have a God's cursed boy whose job it is to ferry souls to the underworld, but that's a curse that he has, and they fall in love and they try to figure out how to break the curse. And it's really, really good. I'm really liking the setup. I really like the writing style. It's equal parts sometimes poetic and beautiful, and just an easy, quick read. And I just really love how the format of YA fantasy typically goes, where you get introduced to the world really quickly, you get into the story really quickly. Like, I just really enjoy that. So this is really fun. But again, this one is one I'm reading physically, so I may not update you on this very often because I'm not going to be able to read this physically. It's Monday morning. I just picked up groceries there in the back. And then I'm going to be working and listening to Inheritance all day. And then I probably won't get to read this book until tonight. So that's what's happening. That's the reading update. I'm not sure. You know, Inheritance is like an 18-hour audiobook, so I'm not sure what I'm going to read after that. Anyway, I just wanted to say hello and chit-chat with you. I, of course, got myself a diet soda, Diet Dr. Pepper, sugar-free strawberry, sugar-free vanilla today. It's my favorite. Current favorite. Alright, my friends, I'm going to go in the house, unload these groceries, and get started on work and listen to my audiobook. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll update you when I have more to say. Hello, my friends. Hello. So, I'm just sitting in my truck about to go in and work out, and it is over a week. It's a week and a half after I started this vlog. I've been struggling hard. I've been struggling hard in a lot of ways. Once again, I apologize for, like, talking about that again, but I am in desperate need of an audiobook that is going to sweep me away, you know? I just feel like the last book that I remember that really did that for me was the Maggie Stiefvater books. That was in probably my last vlog when I was talking about those. I'm having such a hard time focusing and paying attention. This has been something I've said a lot in my vlogs recently. Not recently, this year. And I am in a full-on depressive episode right now. Like, I have depression. I've mentioned it. I don't believe that I have had a flare-up this severe since I started this channel. And I know there are a lot of contributing factors as to what is sort of causing it right now, even though I know you don't need things to be causing it, but which has made me, one, not want to read, two, have a hard time focusing, and three, not want to make content, because as much as I feel like our society has grown and accepted and understand and have an understanding for mental health, there is still a sort of internal shame that I have by talking about it. And also, I just feel like I've been so negative in these vlogs lately, while at the same time I want to vlog because they're so very therapeutic and fun for me. But I just feel like every time I thought about picking up the camera, I'm like, I don't have anything to say about this book. I feel almost nothing about it. And I don't necessarily feel like it's because of the books at this point. Now that I am fully realizing and admitting and vocalizing, I'm in a depressive episode. I'm having a really hard time. Nothing like putting it on the internet for thousands of people to see, right? But I decided to pick up this vlog again only because if you also are feeling like that, or you have felt like that, you're not alone. And also, I just sort of want to give myself permission to pause the books that I'm currently reading, which are not what I need right now. I'm going to pause Inheritance, not because there's anything wrong with the book, but because my brain is having a really hard time grabbing onto that. I also tried to start a study in drowning. I'm 32% into that, and I am liking it. But again, it's one of those books that feels like it's not meshing with my mood and my brain right now, so I'm going to put a pause on that one. The Kindle book is fine. I'm moving at a snail's pace with it. It's good, actually. I'm liking it a lot. I'm just not reading physically. Even when I have time to read, I'm finding it so hard to focus. So I'm going to try and find something else. I don't know what that is. I have a few options. I'm going to go through my audiobooks and I'm going to see which one is calling to me, and I'm going to stick with that one. And if you know, this vlog may never see the light of day, or it might, I don't know. Anyway, I know when I've talked before about like making content and feeling worried that maybe you guys don't want to watch it, overwhelmingly a lot of you said we don't care, we just, you know, we'll watch whatever you put out, and this feeling of we want the realness of what you want to share. So this is as real as it gets, I feel like. Wish me luck on finding a new book. I'll come back and update you on what I picked, and thanks for being here. I'll see you guys later. Hello, my friends. Hello, hello, hello. Well, believe it or not, yet another week has passed since I filmed my last clip. So here we are, a vlog that is very short, probably. I brought in some snacks for me and Kazi to share. He loves the crackers so much. Crunch, crunch. And I really debated about posting this vlog or not, and honestly, there's still a chance that I may private this video and just... because it feels very vulnerable to talk about this. You know, I think it's one thing to mention that you have depression or that you have struggles with mental health. It's one thing to post about it on like a text post, I feel like, but sitting in front of a camera and talking about it, like calling it by name, and I think, you know, since we're all readers and we like to break things apart, if you're paying attention to this video, this is very different than my normal vlogs, you know? Excuse me! So, I just didn't feel like I had anything to talk about. I didn't feel like I had anything to say. I will say that while I do have severe depression, and this is definitely where I feel like I'm clawing myself out of this episode. You just won't. I shouldn't have brought these in here right now. It feels like I also have noticed like some signs of anxiety that is not diagnosed, mostly because I haven't sought a diagnosis for that. So I don't want to talk too much about that, but I did want to mention it because when I say clawing myself out, that's very literally what I mean. I don't know what I would do without this boy right here. And Wanda, I'll tell you that right now. I feel like they're literal lifesavers. And good friends. Obviously my family, first and foremost, my husband, my children. Like, I'm not trying to accept an Academy Award, but you know, having people that you know love and care about you can be the difference, can literally make a life or death difference to someone struggling with depression. Because looking back on the state of my mind in those dark moments of this time, like, now I can recognize how destructive those thoughts were, and at the moment I just wasn't able to, you know. So I guess I decided to post this because if you or anyone you know and love struggles with depression, just hold on. I know that's something everyone says, and I know if you have not been to that dark place, you have no idea. You have no idea what it's like. And I don't mean to say that with any type of cruelty, but if you haven't experienced the darkness, the darkest darkness you can ever even think of your mind being in, where it literally feels like life or death, you cannot judge anyone who has been there. And just hold on. And I will say that if you are struggling like that, please reach out to somebody, and you can message me at any time. So all of that being said, it has, one of the things that finally tipped me off that, hey, this is a depressive episode, a pretty serious one, because I think that, you know, as people, but especially as women, as a mother, as a wife, it is at least my tendency to push everything that I'm feeling down and take care of other people around me. And I feel like I've been doing that for so long, and I just couldn't do it anymore. But one of the things that finally tipped me off is how unexcited I was about reading, which has always been such a comfort to me and such an escape when I'm struggling with mental health. And I think a lot of times I write it off as reading slumps without realizing that it's likely my mental health that is affecting it. And that's definitely what was happening now. So anyway, I'm doing okay. I'm doing good. Things are not perfect at all, but it's okay. And I'm not saying this seeking sympathy at all, but I feel like the realness that comes in my vlogs specifically, I felt like sharing with you guys, you know? So I did finally finish some books, and I liked them both a whole lot, and they were both YA fantasy books. And those were very, like, deliberate choices, I think, because usually those are an instant fix for me, and at the very least, YA fantasy is a very comforting genre for me, you know? So let's talk about the first book that I finished. We're gonna set aside all the heavy mental health talk. So I finished A Study in Drowning. Now, both of these books took me quite a long time to read, but that doesn't have anything to say about the quality of them. That is literally just my brain. A Study in Drowning is Ava Reed's debut YA. She is an adult fantasy author. This is her first YA. And I mentioned this in my TBR. I was very, very excited about it. I had heard a review that was just, sounded like everything that I like, you know? I shouldn't have brought the treats in here. So the basic premise of this is we have our heroine Effie, who is a student at an architecture school. The whole book, it is technically YA, but I feel like this could very easily be adult. You know, she's in college, she's attending university. The themes are very relatable and easy to have for adult or young adult audiences. So I am kind of perplexed as to why it is a YA, other than the academic type of setting. But that's not true, because there are plenty of dark academic books that are adult books. Anyway, the basic gist is it is a academic rival situation. So Effie is our heroine. She is at a architecture student at university, and from the time she was little, she has had these visions of the Fairy King. And she's a very unreliable narrator. Like, she continuously has these visions of the Fairy King, who and the reader's never quite sure, is he real, is he part of her imagination, is, you know, and she has these pink pills that she takes throughout the book that suppress those visions, and so you never really know until the very end, or close to it, if she's actually seeing him or if she is an unreliable narrator. And I think that's always just such a clever and unique device when it's done well, and I think that pretty much everything in this book is done very, very well. It's a very slow-moving book. It is very character-driven, and it is very theme-driven, like very theme-driven. If you enjoy breaking apart books layer by layer and looking at the themes the author is including through story, I think you would really enjoy this a lot. But if you are a reader who likes best high action, fast-paced, this is not going to be the book for you at all. So I personally love character-driven, theme-driven, slow-paced books. I love them so much. And the tone of this is very gothic, because Effie enters this competition to, like, redesign this mansion of the author who wrote her favorite book. It's like a sort of a national treasure, this book. It's about a human girl who falls in love with the Fairy King, and then she ends up killing him in the end. It's like this national treasure, this book is. Everyone reads it, everyone knows it. It's very, like, it feels very much like the ACOTAR of this world, and it is a very relatable world. I've heard it called second world fantasy, so it feels very similar to ours in in a not too distant past. Like, it's never defined what time period this is, but I sort of got the vibes that it was like 1920s, 1930s, somewhere early in the 1900s, you know. So she has this opportunity to redesign this mansion, and she goes to this very crumbling Gothic mansion of the author of the book that has meant so much to her for her whole life. And when she gets there, she finds there's another student there, Preston, who is also trying to do the same thing that she is through this competition. And they sort of start talking, and at first they're rivals, and then pretty soon as they start to work together and unravel some of the mysteries surrounding this crumbling mansion and the son of the author who's living there, they start to realize that things are kind of amiss, and that the things that they thought were real are not. And it's very, very interesting. But again, it's very slow paced and very gradual unraveling of the story. A lot of this is very introspective. A lot of this is really focusing on Effie. She did have some trauma regarding a professor at her previous school that haunts her, that she is trying to move away from. She wanted to be a literature student, but the world at the time, that was not allowed for women to do. So she took in her mind, the next thing, which was architecture. So I really, really loved this book. I gave it 5 stars. I think that this had so many interesting things to say about the power imbalance between men and women, specifically in this time when women very clearly didn't have the same rights as men. I also really loved how this examined, both closely and broadly, the draw and allure of toxic relationships, and both how and why they may be appealing. Obviously, no one enters into a relationship believing it to be toxic in that moment, and how that might affect people's lives and how they may try to escape or want to escape. Now, both of those things are themes that I'm deeply, deeply interested in. And then the third theme that I really liked in here, and I say theme because I think that it's the one sort of glimmer of hope in this book, is sort of that first falling in love, that first true, pure love. That's one thing that I love about YA books, is when that moment, that first love is captured so well. Like, I just love that so much, and that was really beautifully well done here. It's not a huge part of the story, but it is definitely there, and I just really enjoyed it. I thought this was beautifully written. I thought it was very thoughtful. I thought that it handled the themes in contrast, or maybe not contrast, paralleled. The themes in the story, in my mind, were paralleled very well. I do think sometimes the themes were a little heavy-handed, and other times it was like you really had to peel back the layers of the story and look at it a little closer and think to yourself, so now what does this mean? And it was my favorite thing. All of that combined with the very Gothic setting, you know, the threat of this mansion sort of crumbling into the sea, and the mystery of, is the Fairy King real? Is she an unreliable narrator, or is this a delusion in her mind? Like, I just found this to be absolutely fascinating. I loved it so much, and this book did take me a while to read, and it took me a while to get fully invested too, because it starts slow and we get to know the characters slowly. So they're not like somebody that you really latch onto right away and you're like, I love this character, I'll follow them anywhere. You sort of develop that relationship with them slowly over the course of the book. So I gave it 5 stars. I thought it was fantastic, but again, I could see very much how this isn't going to be a hit for everyone, you know? So if you like the sort of things that I like, then I think it's definitely worth a read. And if you need or want more fast-paced, more action, this is definitely not going to be for you. So, at least in my opinion, you know, we all have those books that are outliers that we still love. So, okay, and then the next book that I read is The Night Hunt by Alexandra Christo. This was also on my October TBR. Look at me going and reading 2 books on my TBR. This one was very interesting, and so this was a book I was reading on my Kindle. I had an ARC for it. This just barely came out. And I was sort of reading this in tandem. So like at night I would read this, and then I would listen to a study and drowning during the day, and just moving really slowly through both of them. And it was very interesting to me to see the contrast in the writing style, in the story structure, and just in the overall vibe and feel. This book was so fun. I also gave this book 5 stars. This to me is just really peak YA fantasy, just a really good time, really good characters, very interesting setup and very interesting world, and I just had a great time with this one. So the basic premise of this is I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her name right, but our main character, our heroine, is Atia, and she is a Nephis demon, I believe, which is, so it's in this fantasy world, and there are demons and monsters, and there are gods, and there are also humans, and there are different, like, lands. So there's, like, the Earth human world, and then there's the afterworld, and then there is this other sort of world that is called Oxenia, which is basically where the monsters and demons lived, sort of idyllically, before the war happened, and they were killed or sent to the human world to try and scrounge a life there. So Atia is the only monster of her kind. She is the last surviving member of her family. She watched her parents be killed, and she is a fear monster. So similar to how a vampire feeds on blood, she feeds off of humans' fears. And one of the big rules for monsters, the few remaining at this time, is that they can feed off of humans, but they cannot kill them. So a situation happens when she is trying to protect her human friend from this man, and she ends up killing him with her fear. She scares him to death, basically. And that sets a chain of events happening that really push our story forward. So at that point, she is confronted by a herald, and basically a herald is someone who used to be a human, but this is their sentence, and they are supposed to sort of ferry the souls of humans to the lands of the dead. With their entire human knowledge, their human life has been wiped away. So his name is Silas, and he ends up working out a deal with our heroine Atia, saying, because once she kills the human, I left this part out, once she kills the human, she's cursed by the gods and her powers are taken from her, her immortality is taken from her, she's essentially reduced to a human again. So he ends up confronting her because he wants to regain his human memories and find out what he did in life that ended up delivering the sentence to him. So he's like, hey, I know how you can get your immortality and powers back. You have to kill a vampire, you have to kill a banshee, and then you have to kill a god and drink this vial of water from the everlasting eternal river. So they end up working together, and we have a quest fantasy as she's going to try and meet all of those, the final culmination being a god, so that she can have her powers and her monsterhood return to her, basically. And of course, that's the romance between the two of them. I really enjoyed the mythology in here. I really thought the world building wasn't super extensive, but it gave you just enough knowledge to get you into the story, to get you really connected to the characters, and to get you to really care what's going to happen next in this story. And you had a really good grounding of things that were happening. So this one was much more fast-paced. This one was definitely more plot-driven, but it also had a lot of really interesting themes about family and loss and found family and decisions that we make and how we can regret those and how we can try and move on. It was just so, so good. And I also really liked the romance between these two. Like, it was just such a good story. It was just completely engaging to me on a storytelling level. I really loved the characters. I thought it was very clever, very unique. I haven't read anything quite like it, and I enjoyed it immensely. There were, at times, the dialogue felt very much YA, very punchy, very sharp, reminded me very much of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which I'm in season 4 right now. Still currently watching that with my husband. And it was just fun. I just loved it. So those are the two books that I wanted to read and that held my attention and that really just were satisfying to me. So I gave them both 5 stars. But neither one of them, I think, are perfect. There are things that I could pick at, but the overall reading experience was super enjoyable. So 4.5 or 5 stars, but they're 5-starred on Goodreads. So I loved them both, and I would definitely recommend them. So there you have it. Thank you so much for listening, my friends. I appreciate you all for being here, and I just want you to know that, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have made it this far, please feel free to leave me any type of heart, and I'll see y'all in my next video. Oh wait, Kazi, come here. You want to see Kazi? You do. He got a haircut. He got a haircut. Look how handsome. Look how handsome. Oh, he's so handsome. Kazi, you haven't had Kazi Cam in a while, so there you go. Look at this handsome baby. He's looking at himself. Do you want a cracker? I bring these into my studio because he loves snacks, but he really loves like these little gluten-free goldfish. They're actually not goldfish, they're gluten-free penguins. He loves them. And so we share snacks. Alright, my friends, for real now. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you all, and I'll see you in my next video.